Hi everyone. I am really happy to see all of you here today and thank you for coming. We're going to talk today about Be Well, Love Life. It is something that I've put together that I think is going to help all of us. It's going to enrich our lives. It is designed to be a piece that I think is going to help to propel you from where you are to where you really want to be. When we look at Be Well, Love Life, Be Well for me means there's lots of different types of wellness. There's emotional, there's mental, there's economic, physical, and spiritual. Love Life has to do with enjoying the journey that you're on. So before we start, I just want to begin with a few questions. My first question is, how many of you need some encouragement? How many of you feel as if, you know, there's some things going on in your life, that things that maybe you want, that you wish you had and wish that you could do, but yet you don't really have anybody in your corner. You don't have anybody that's encouraging you and helping you and trying to propel you and push you forward to do the things that you know that you're able to do. So some of us, sometimes we need some encouragement. How many of you feel like you have encouragement? You have people that are in your corner and that support you and encourage you, but maybe you're the one that's stopping yourself. How many of us struggle with procrastination, right? By a show of hands. I think all of us sometimes, from time to time, we struggle with procrastination. And we know that procrastination can be a thief of our success. How many of you would say that you are excited about your future? When you think about where you are and where you're headed, you're excited about your future. You're on the right track. You have the encouragement. You have the people that are in your corner, and you're moving and you're progressing and you're doing it. You're doing it. You're moving forward. You're excited about your future. How many of you say that you're excited about your future? You're on the right track. So even though you may be excited about your future, you still have to guard yourself, because there are times when negative thoughts can creep in, or negative people can come around and say, even though you're on the right track, I think we call them haters, right?
Yeah.
You're on the right track and you're trying to do whatever it is that you're supposed to do, and somebody will come along and say, yeah, but I don't know if that's really going to work. Yeah, but I don't know if you can really do it. So you have to guard your mind. You have to guard your dream. And how many of you wish that you were excited about your future? That can be too. So I've come up with this concept called MEEPS, and actually one of my daughters and I sat down one day and we were looking at all these different types of wellness, because I've been talking about this for a while. And so I've had different words that I've used to describe the different 5 major areas of wellness that I think are really important for all of us. And when I looked at it, I said, okay, what are we going to do? I need to come up with a way to have an acronym that would be easy for people to remember. So I came up with the acronym MEEPS after we went through all of these different things, MEEPS. And she said she had taken a MEEP, M-E-A-P, test at school. She said, well, at least that's a word that people have heard of before, and it worked for me. So MEEP stands for mental, emotional, economic, physical, and spiritual. And for me, these are 5 major areas of wellness that I don't look at as being something that's linear, or whether you look at it this way or this way. It's not linear, it's more of a circle. I see each one of those components as being a circle, and they're all sort of intertwined with one another. So there's lots of overlap. But what we're going to talk about today are those 5 major areas of wellness, and what I want you to do with the handout that you have in front of you is to make notes. As we go through today and you hear some things that might resonate with you and something that you need to maybe work on a little bit more in your life, make some notes in those boxes, and it'll be just sort of interesting to see at the end of the day where the majority of your notes are. Is there one particular area where you have a lot of notes and there's another area where maybe you don't have as many? So we're going to take a look at that and see how that works out. So again, Be Well is about sharing your talents. When you share your talents with the rest of the world, all of us have gifts. How many of you believe that? You have gifts, you have talents that have been given to you. And so when you have balance in all 5 of these major wellness areas, then you are able to share your gift with the world. If you don't have these 5 areas in balance, you're probably doing some things that are sort of counterproductive. And so you're not able to do the thing that it is that you're supposed to do. So we need to get them in balance. And then again, love life is about the journey. So in the love life component, you just want to write down things that you can do that are going to help you to just sort of stay happy while you're on this journey called life, while we're figuring this whole thing out. So let's go through this. I'm going to talk about mental wellness. Now when we look at mental wellness, what does that mean? Mental wellness has to do with what? How you think, right? So what's going on in your mind? Look at MEEPS. Be well. Be well has to do with all of the MEEPS areas being in balance. So it's a way of saying mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, economic, all of these different areas of your life that I think are 5 major areas of wellness. Be well has to do with getting them there. It's a journey that you go on. So love life has to do with just loving the journey that you're on while you're striving towards getting that balance. So let's go ahead and talk about them. So when we look at mental, let's just start with mental wellness. Mental has to do with what? How you think, right? So it has to do with what kind of thoughts are entering your mind. Are there any negative thoughts that are entering your mind? We all have it sometimes where, we call them fiery darts, where these fiery darts will be thrown at your mind, something negative, something to throw you off track. And so we're going to talk about how to overcome that. And then there's emotional wellness. What does emotional wellness have to do with? That's how you feel. And especially as women, because I know this is a group of professional women, and so when we look at women's emotional wellness, we're really driven by emotion. A lot of the things that we do have to do with how we feel, the way we react to our spouse or our significant other or our children or our coworkers or our clients. Sometimes it has to do with those emotions, and sometimes we, say things like, well, it has to do with certain times when we're out of control and we can't manage that. And I want to challenge you on that. I want to push back a little bit on that and say, if you've been using that as an excuse for mistreating people for however long it has been, it's time for us to look at how are we going to get some balance. I am going to challenge you a little bit today, because some of the things I'm going to say to you might sound like something I don't know if anybody's ever said to you before. If we're going to get in balance, you are never going to be able to get to where you ultimately need to be if you're out of balance, if you're off kilter. So if you're allowing things like your emotions to stop you, it's time to just sort of take another look at that. And then we look at economic wellness. Well, what does that have to do with? We're going to get really personal when we get to the economic wellness. I'm going to talk about your money. We're going to talk about what's going on with your money, what are you doing with it, and what are you not doing with it, and what can we do a little bit differently. If you're not happy with where your money is now, there's a reason. And we can't blame anyone but ourselves. So we're gonna dive into that. And then there's physical wellness. How many of us have ever seen an elderly person who was in great physical shape? Maybe somebody in their 70s or even their 80s, and you said, wow, I want to be just like that person. Or actually, we look at a person that's in really great physical shape in their 70s or 80s or beyond, and we're amazed by it. We think, well, there's some oddity, there's some strange being because they're at a certain age and yet they're still healthy. And how many of you have ever seen an elderly person that was not so healthy? And you thought, okay, I don't want to be like that when I get to be that age. Well, then I would ask you, have you done anything differently? What are you doing today so that you can be that healthy 70, 80-year-old as opposed to being the unhealthy one? When my sisters and I used to own a gym, we had a member, our eldest member was Eleanor. She was 86 years old. I called her Queen Eleanor. She was just my queen. And Eleanor, 86 years old, she would come into the gym and she could work out and lift more weight than women that were half her age. And she did it all the time. She was on 3 golf leagues, and of course she drove herself, to the gym every day. And she was just a spry and she was just fantastic. So I love Queen Eleanor. And so, people were always so amazed by her. And they wanted to know what was her secret. And how many of you know? what Eleanor did was not a secret. She told me one day that she used to take exercise. That was her words, take exercise, when she was in her 20s and 30s. She's been taking her exercise for a long time. And back in those days when she used to take her exercise, she said that her friends would talk about her and say, what are you doing that for? Why are you exercising? Why do you keep doing that? We don't need to do that. You know, we're fine. We're in perfectly good health. And she told me that all of those friends are gone. They're either dead, or they're in a nursing home, or they're ill, or, you know, wheelchairs, or what have you. They're not well. They are not people that she hangs out with anymore. In fact, all of Queen Eleanor's friends were all much younger than her, because, as she said, all the people her age were old. I loved Queen Eleanor, and so she is just an inspiration. And so what did we take away from that? She's been exercising all her life. So when she got to 86, she didn't start when she was 85. When she got to 86, it was normal. And she was able to be on 3 golf leagues and do all the fabulous things that she did. So I think that that was really, really great. So that's our physical wellness. So we have to look at that. And then we have spiritual wellness. Now, let me just say that spiritual wellness, being the last one, is in no way intended to be last. In fact, for me personally, it would actually be first. But as we were looking at, you know, our acronym and what we were going to put together here for you, SPEAM just didn't sound as great as MEEP, so I went with MEEP. So I kind of like it, though. It's okay that it's the last one, because it just kind of rounds everything up and just kind of pulls it all together for us. So we're going to go through all that. So let's just start with mental. So when we look at mental wellness, what is it that you can do to improve your mental wellness? One of the things that we'd have to do is to combat negative thoughts. So what are some negative thoughts that can come into your mind? What do people think sometimes? I can't do it. It's too hard. Nobody else is doing it. That's crazy. How many of you know that if you have a thought, if you have a vision, if something has been given to you, that is something that you're supposed to do, you can make it happen. But the only way that you can do that is to get some mental clarity. You're going to have to get rid of those negative thoughts. Sometimes those negative thoughts come from negative people. And if that's the case, you got to squash that. You either got to get rid of that person, get them out of your life, or you have to learn how to block that and not let that affect you. How many of you have given up? How many of you have ever had a dream, and maybe once upon a time you used to put it up on a board, used to cut pictures out of a magazine, and believe that someday you were going to be able to have all these wonderful, fabulous things? Yeah, a few of us, right? And then, so what happens when all of a sudden you kind of look at that and you think, well, that was kind of pie in the sky. Like, really? Why did I even think that? Why is that? Why do we think that? Somebody has those things because they have pictures of them in a magazine. They have whole magazines and industries dedicated to boats and, you know, yachting or the homes or whatever it is that you wanted, whatever was on your board. Maybe it's the cars or just the lifestyle, whatever it is. Maybe it's that you wanted to be a missionary, you wanted to go and you wanted to give more to more people. And so what happened? What happened? So let's revisit that. If there are some mental blocks that you have that you've been putting up and allowing to come into your mind, identify them and write them down so that you can squash them. Another thing that we have to learn how to do is to let go of the past. When we talk about mental wellness, one of the things that can stop us is dwelling on negative thoughts about things that we can't control. The past is just that. It's in the past, and there isn't anything that we can do about it. Really hard sometimes to let go of the past. Past pain and hurts. Why did that happen to me? All I can tell you is that you have to be like the duck. Just let it go off your back. A duck can meet another duck in the water, and they'll have a fight, and they'll have a brawl with each other, and as soon as that brawl is over, you'll see them, and they just keep right on floating. They've forgotten about it that quickly. And so we need to learn how to do that too. Things that are in the past are things that you can't control. So what can you control? Let me tell you again, that when we get all 5 of these areas in balance, you're going to be so busy moving into your destiny that you're not going to even have time to worry about those past things that are weighing you down right now. So when you're thinking about those negative things and, you know, those ordeals that are just weighing you down, that's going to go away. But we got to get all this stuff in balance. So let's deal with the things that we can control. Things that you can't control, let's just go back to that for a second. If there's something that you can't control, what do you have to do to deal with it? Well, you're going to have some forgiveness for somebody maybe that hurt you. Acceptance. There's 5 major patterns of grief, right, that people go through, the stages of grief. They are denial and anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance finally. So if something has happened in your past that maybe has really hurt you deeply, you got to go through all 5 of those processes, but eventually you have to get to acceptance. So what have you told yourself that it's too late for? Oh, I'm too old now. Well, I've been here all this time, so I might as well stay. Well, what is it? What are those things that you've said to yourself that you need to change? When we look at mental wellness, let me give you this to write down. Where do you want to be? How many of you ever been in an interview and they asked you, where do you want to be in the next 5 years? Exactly. How many of you have ever had that in an interview? Right, and how many of you were stumped by that question? That question should not stump you. You know why? Because that should be something that you're thinking about all the day. You're writing it down all the time. You can't stop thinking about it. Man, I am on fire. I know where I'm going. I know where I'm headed, and I'm on my way. It should be something that you can just blurt right out of your mouth. Where do you want to be in the next 6 months? 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? You pick the time frame that makes the most sense for you. Pick one and jot something down. Where do you want to be? Let me ask you, does your future look exactly the same as your present? Well, if you don't write something down, put a plan in action for how you're going to move forward, how you're going to make something different happen, guess what? Your future is going to look exactly the same as your present, if not worse, because you didn't do anything to plan. That's a scary thought, isn't it? Sometimes people just let life happen to them. Yeah, whatever happens, they just kind of float along. All right, whatever. And other people make things happen. No, this is what I want, and this is where I have to go. And so they move forward. So what's stopping you? What are the things, what do you think are the things that stop people from moving forward on their dream, doing the things they really want to do? Would fear be one? Fear, definitely. That's definitely. So what are we afraid of? Are we afraid that it might work? Are we afraid that it won't work? We're afraid that we're going to fail? We're afraid that somebody's going to laugh at us? We're afraid, yeah, sometimes people are afraid they'll succeed. Then what will I do? Oh my. What about doubt? Doubt can come in and rob you of your dream. Because you say, well, I don't know. I mean, I really would like to, but I don't know. I doubt it if it could really work out. Or a lack of clarity. If you're not clear on what it is that you want, you just think, well, I know that what I have right now is not what I want. I'm not happy with the way things are. I just want it to be different. Okay, that's a good starting point. Let's start there and let's say, okay, we know that you're not happy with the way things are. Now what are we going to do? So we have to get some clarity sometimes. So we just have to work on getting over those mental blocks. So what is that dream that you pushed aside? Let's talk about it in terms of pruning and purging. I have this flower on my desk. A friend of mine gave me a nice little potted tulip flower. for a favor that I did for her. And so it was very nice. She gave me the flower. So I put it right on my desk so I can see it every time that I'm working. So I'm sitting there at my computer, and every time I'm working, and you know how you kind of look up to clear your thoughts, and every time I look up I can see it. Well, now I have to tell you, I do not have a green thumb, not at all. I don't know how plants survive in my house. I think they do it in spite of me. But I have this, it's right by a window, and you know, if I drink water, I'll give the plant some water too. So I don't know what's going on, but this flower all of a sudden started getting these brown, you know, tips on the leaves. And I'm thinking, oh, what did I do? I'm about to kill another plant. How did I do this? I don't know how I managed to do it. So I'm looking at this flower and I'm thinking, man, you know, every time I look up, I'm working away, and I look up, every time I look up, I see the brown. That's all I see. I don't even see the flower anymore. All I can see is what's wrong with it. And so one day I picked up a notebook off my desk and my scissors fell off, and I thought, oh, what if I cut that off? It didn't occur to me before that it was actually something that I might be able to do, right? Just cut that brown part off. I'm going somewhere with this. What if there's some brownness on your dream? That board, that poster board that you had hanging up there, it's dusty, it's kind of leaning to the side. Maybe it's not even up anymore, you just put it aside. What if you cut the brown part off of your dream, that mental brown part? I cut the brown part off of the leaves, and now all of a sudden it's a beautiful flower again. And after I cut that brown part off, I noticed that the tulip was actually blooming. I didn't even notice that before. So what part of your dream could bloom? Maybe it is blooming. You don't even see it. All you see is the brown. Oh, I can't do it. Oh, I doubt it. Well, it's been so long. Well, who would believe me now? Okay, so look at pruning. And then there's purging. How many of you have ever purged a closet or a junk drawer or your desk, some area in your life that you needed to just kind of declutter? And so let's take the closet, for example. You go to your closet and you have all these clothes in there, and half of them you can't wear anymore. And so you decide that's it. This is the day I'm getting rid of stuff. And so you start purging. You're getting rid of things, and you have bags and boxes there, and these are the giveaways, and these are the throwaways, and these are going to go to the consignment shop or whatever it is that you're going to do. These you're going to give to your sister. And so you go ahead and you say, all right, I'm going to get rid of these things. And then you get rid of bags. It could be 3. How many of you have ever gotten rid of 3 garbage bags full of clothes? Now, if I were to ask you right now to make a list of everything that was in those bags, would you be able to do it? No, of course not. It's gone, right? So once you declutter, you get rid of stuff, you can let it go. You don't even think about it anymore, because now you can focus, you have clarity. You ever look at, you know, you can put all your skirts together and all your pants together and your blouses together and the jackets, and then you can say, well, not only am I going to put all the blouses together, I'm going to put all the white together and all the black together and the pink ones and the red ones, and man, now it's all nice and organized. And now you can go and you can say, well, I need a white shirt, and you could just go right to the white shirt section. You can do the same thing with your dream and with getting some mental clarity. So pruning and purging, I think really important. Let's move on. Let's move on to emotional wellness. So emotional, of course, has to do with how we feel. And as women, again, we really have to pay attention to this. I think that sometimes our emotions almost define who we are. It definitely dictates how we respond to others. One of the emotional things that we have to pay attention to is depression. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on depression today, because that's a whole other subject we could just spend one talk on alone, is just on depression. But I will just say this: there's lots of forms of depression. There's lots of reasons that people become depressed. It can be loss of a loved one. It can even be childbirth. You know, postpartum depression has been something that has been documented as being a very real thing. And so sometimes when people are dealing with depression, one of the things that you want to do is make sure that you're not alone. You have to get some help. You have to have somebody that you can talk to, whether it's a doctor or a trusted friend or a psychologist. Lots of things that you can do to sort of help yourself get through depression. And so, again, that's a completely different subject all by itself. So we're not going to go too much into that. But let's talk about procrastination. Procrastination. What is that about? What is procrastination about? I know. Yeah, you'll think about it later, right? What is procrastination and why do we do it? It's so easy, isn't it? It's easy. It's the easy way out. So when we're looking at emotional wellness, the reason that I have procrastination here is because a lot of times when we procrastinate, we're saying, well, you know, it's just, I don't feel like it. How come you didn't do it? I didn't feel like it. I never felt like it. We also have to balance procrastination with timing. Now, sometimes we say, well, I know that I want to accomplish something. And, you know, I've been putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. And so, okay, that's procrastination. And other times you say, well, it's just not the right time. You know, everything has a certain time and a place when you're supposed to make things happen. So it's just not the right time for me. But timing does not get you off the hook from not procrastinating. Because even though you may not be at the right place where you're supposed to act on that dream, you still have pieces that you can put in place. There's still research that you can do. There's still some time that you can spend thinking about it, planning about it, and looking at, well, how will this look? I know it's not the right time for me to do this now because the kids are little, whatever reason you're giving yourself. But maybe there's still some plans that you can put into place. So why do we procrastinate? Who procrastinates? Is anybody in here? I don't know. Procrastination, we know, is definitely a thief of our success. There's no really great way to get over procrastination other than to just do it. You have to make some decisions. You have to get up in the morning maybe a little bit earlier. There was an author that I saw that was talking to aspiring authors and saying, okay, so I know that you're procrastinating. I know it's difficult to get going on writing, so let me give you some advice. Only write when you feel like it. And everybody said, oh, God, it's a sigh of relief because I don't ever feel like it, so it's all right if I don't do it, right? And she said, and make sure you feel like it every day. There's no other way to overcome it, sorry. There's no magic pill. You just have to do it. Again, I think that when we get all these pieces in balance, it will all just start working out for you. Let's talk about economic wellness. We're going to move on to your money, financial wellness. What is the problem with people and their money? Do you think that there is a problem? There is a problem. And why is the subject of money taboo? Why is it something that people just don't want to talk about? That's my money. You stay out of my business now. It's my money. It's my business. I'm handling this. And people don't want anybody to know what they're doing with their money. How much money did you make? Well, that's none of your business. You know, what did you do with your money? Where'd it go? Well, that's none of your business. Everybody just feels like, you know, really cautious about it. Probably because they're mismanaging it. That's why they don't want you to know about it, right? So money is something that all of us use every single day. You are here because of money, right? You have clothes on, they cost money. You have to buy them, right? You came in a car, the car costs money. You have to put gas in it. You know, it's the reason that we live indoors and we eat food and we have smartphones or dumb phones or whatever kind of phone you have, or computers and cable and TV and all the things that we do. Every time you go to the grocery store, you have to have money. If you go to the movies, even if you go to church. How many people think that people will go to church if they charge admission at the door? Would they go? They wouldn't go, would they? $5. Come on in. Yeah, we want everybody to come in. $5. Put your money in the plate before you walk in the door. People wouldn't go, would they? They're over here trying to save your soul, and people get offended when they ask for money. How do you think they have a church building? Oh, they passing the plate around again? What is that about? It takes money. And so why are we afraid to talk about money? What is it that we've grown up learning about money? I would say for most of us, probably not very much. In fact, for some of us, we grew up where money is not something that you discuss. And then we've made the mistake of passing that on to the next generation, where we just don't talk about money. And I'm saying that we've got to get over that. We've got to get to the point where we're talking more about money. Everyone has money. Everybody in this room has money. You might not have as much as you want, but you have something, right? You have something. So what are you doing with your money Let me get in your business here. Here are the basics. 10% you give away. 20% you put away. What does that leave you with? 70% is what you get to spend. And that might be a radically new concept to some folks. 10% you give away. Now for me, what that means is tithe. That means a tenth. That means that at 10% right off the bat, I know where that's going. Automatically, it's every pay, every time, all year. You never take a break from that. It's always. It's a principle. Principles never change. And I can tell you, if we had time, I could tell you some great stories about how I know for a fact that that works. Because sometimes people don't trust it. They think, oh, that won't really work. I can't do it this month. I'll do it next month. You have to trust. It's another subject. 10% you give away. So if you don't believe what I believe, then maybe you find somewhere else where you put your 10%. There's lots of charities out there that, guess what they need? They all need money. They all need money, right? And so maybe there's a favorite cause. Maybe someone in your family has suffered with cancer or dementia. Alzheimer's Association needs money. Maybe you like children. So you want to support some children's charities. There's Leukemia Foundation and Lymphoma. Maybe there's, maybe you like pets. So whatever it is that you care about and you love and you adore, put your money there. But it has to be every time, all the time, and no exceptions. 10% first, not last, not after I pay my bills. Then I'll see what's left. And then no. It's first. This is a principle. Listen to me. 10% first you give away. 20% you save, you put away. Now what happens when you do that? Well, I'm going to challenge you. We're saying that that leaves you with 70% to spend. So that means that when you find out, you get your great new job and you find out how much money you're making and you say, okay, this is 100% of what I'm making, so I'm going to build my lifestyle on this 100%. And you spend it all. What's going to happen? It's never going to be enough. I don't care if it's $100 or $1,000 or $100,000 or $1 million. If you spend 100% of it, it's now gone, and so now it's not enough. So you just made $100,000 and you spent $100,000. So was it enough? Yeah. It wasn't enough. So a lot of times people look at that and they say, yeah, I hear you. I know I should, give away 10%. And I know I should be saving, but I can't afford to do that. Here, I can show you my budget. Here's all my money. I know exactly how much comes in. I know how much goes out, and that's 100%. And it's all gone. There's nothing left. There's no way that I can even afford to do what you're suggesting that I should do. And the reason that I would say that you would think that you can't afford to is because you've been conditioned to spend 100% of everything that came in. So we got to make some changes. We have got to make some changes. You've got to switch your mindset to say, I don't have 100%, I have 70%. Only 70% of this is mine. In fact, none of it is yours. If we really want to talk about it, none of it is yours. It was all given to you. But 70% is what you get to work with and live on. So how do you do that? Well, we have to change some old habits probably. I call credit cards a behemoth. Credit card debt is something that is just consuming people everywhere we go. It's like a lion that's seeking to whom he can devour. It's roaming the earth looking for whom it can devour. Credit cards in the hands of a person that knows something about money management are great. It's a great tool that you can use. Credit cards in the hands of someone that only has learned to spend and nothing else can be deadly. So what are we going to do about that? I'm going to challenge you to do a 10, 20, 70 rule and see what you can do with that. Get a trusted advisor to help you out. Let's talk about physical wellness. Now, what does physical wellness have to do with, right? That's our body. How many of you love your body? I love my body. I love my body. Just, even if it's not perfect, it's not, the way it used to be some time ago, it's all right. I told my children that prior to 85 or so, everybody was skinny. How many remember that? There was a day when everybody used to be skinny. and in fact, I guess, weren't necessarily skinny, but everybody was at the right body weight at some point, and something changed. Something has shifted. We're not so skinny anymore. We're put on some pounds, and so now people, you know, it used to be that if you saw an overweight person, that was odd. Wow, that person's big. Obese was just out of the question, and now that's really reversed. Now we see so many obese people, a lot of people overweight, and it's really rare to see somebody that's in really good shape. We think, wow, how'd you do that? So it shifted. So what happened? People blame fast food and our lifestyles and technology and, you know, fast-paced lives and whatever else. What else? What are there? Are there any other reasons, anything that we can blame? Oh yeah, it could be something in the quality of our meat. I'm not sure. So even our First Lady Obama has looked at, you know, childhood obesity and taken that on as something. I'm really happy to see that she's taken that on as something that she's trying to help to combat in this country. It's an epidemic. It's a really, really big problem. So when we look at that, what are we going to do, and how are we going to help ourselves, and how are we going to help our children? We have to make some decisions about how to have a healthier lifestyle. What are we going to change, and what are we going to do differently? So maybe this is an area where you need to make some notes. What am I going to do differently? Remember Queen Eleanor? She didn't start working out when she was 80 years old. She started way back when, and now that she's in her 80s, it's no problem. She works out all the time. It's not even an issue for her. The other thing we have to learn how to do is, this is the secret. Are you ready? I'm going to give you the secret to weight loss. Move more and eat less. Right? So yeah, I know. When we had our gym, I remember lost a whole bunch of weight. Man, that was so great. Wow. I was moving all day though. I was moving all day, so it was really, really great. But one of the things that I did was, and I don't know how this works for you, sometimes people have to, you know, incorporate diet and exercise at the same time. And don't look at diet as a bad word. Diet just means what you eat. It doesn't mean restricting yourself. It just means, what is your diet? What is it that you're consuming? And so for me, I was moving all the time, and I saw weight just coming off. I didn't change anything about my eating habits. I just saw weight just dropping off of me because I was moving. And then I just had this revelation one day. I said, wow, I wonder what would happen if I actually didn't have 4 slices of pizza. I just kind of cut that in half. It made a big difference. I just started reducing the amount of food that I consumed at the same time, and it was awesome. So sometimes we have to look at some of those things. Now, what about smoking? See anybody a smoker? You don't have to raise your hand. People beside you already know. If you're a smoker, what are you doing to your health? Now, I think that we all know that smoking's bad for us, right? Smokers know it. They know it. So why do you smoke? It's terrible. It's an addiction. It's an addiction. It's really, really hard to break. But sometimes people have to get to a point where they just say, I'm going to stop. Enough is enough. I used to be a social smoker. Starting college, you know, my friends would have a cigarette, so I would have one. You know, it's just kind of a social thing. I didn't buy them or anything. Just, you know, whenever they were smoking, I would smoke. Yeah, okay. And then it started progressing. It's like, okay, it's not turning into such a social thing anymore. I actually started buying them myself. Wow, that was pretty bad. So I'm moving along here, and I'm smoking more, and I really don't even like it, but it was kind of an addiction. It was kind of like, you know, I couldn't do certain things without having that cigarette first. It was terrible. It was a terrible place to be in. And so the price started going up. Other things are expensive. They're really, really expensive. So I started thinking about that. Like, man, I'm paying all this money for something I know is bad for me. I really don't even like it. I know it stinks. It's really gross. Why am I doing this? I kept doing it. Now let me just tell you, this is the thing that got me. I don't know what it will be for you. When I started in the financial business, I started looking at life insurance policies and looking at trying to get a life insurance policy for someone. One person's a smoker and the other person's not a smoker. And I looked at those premium costs for smokers. And let me tell you, that had an impact. Because One thing that I know about the insurance industry is that they don't make those numbers up. They have actuaries. They have people whose job it is to look at data and life expectancy, and they make determinations on how much you're going to pay for your life insurance policy based upon how long they think you're going to live. So if you're, at a certain age and they're thinking, well, you're a smoker and this is how much you smoke, and you want to buy this policy, well, we know you're only going to live about 10 years, all things being equal. So your rate has to be way up there so that we can get all the money from you that we need to get for those 10 years before we have to pay your family. Whereas a non-smoker, same policy, but they have, you're going to live another 50 years, so you have plenty of time. We can spread those payments out over 50 years, and you can take your time paying us before we have to pay your family. That got me, because I know that that's based on some real numbers. And I don't know what that was, but I had to look at it in black and white by somebody that I know is doing the research that I'm not willing to do, and that was it. I'll let that go. I'm so happy to say that I'm not a smoker and I never will be again. It's horrible. Next is spiritual wellness. So, what does spiritual wellness mean? It means that we're connecting to a higher power, something higher than ourselves. You have to connect every day, whether it's 5 minutes or 15 minutes. Maybe you have to get up a little bit earlier. Maybe you have to turn off the TV. You have to find some quiet time to just connect. How are you going to connect with your spirit? Getting all 5 of these MEEPS areas into balance. Spend some time just being quiet, reading, listening for what comes into your mind. And again, when those negative thoughts come in from our mental wellness, just recognize them, just acknowledge them and say, okay, I see you. Get out of here. You need to take a hike. Don't fight it, just acknowledge it. Breathe. Practice taking some deep breaths. Just reflect. And just observe your thoughts and see what's coming in there. Try to make a connection to something higher and more powerful than yourself. And I guarantee you'll find peace. Thank you.